I'm Mike Nelson, founder of WholesalingHouses101.com. Some people like to call me the professor. I'm just a guy that likes to flip houses. Alright, welcome back guys. Today I have a great video for you. I know a lot of new individuals that are out there, they have this one issue that is holding them back. And today I have a special guest who is going to give you guys the knowledge that you've been looking for to get out there and to go and do deals with this one issue that's holding individuals back. And that's a title company, or in some states it can be a closing attorney. And I have a special guest, and before I introduce her, I want to let you guys know, just a couple of years ago, before I even got started in real estate investing, I came to this individual, I came to this lady, and I had no knowledge on wholesaling. And I came into her office one day, sat down with her, and she gave me a ton of knowledge, which ultimately got me to the point to where I'm at today, to where she is very knowledgeable on the topic of real estate and advanced transactions. But without all ado, I'm going to introduce Linda Rowland of Apex Title. Linda, thank you for having this interview with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Linda, I just found out she's been in the business for 43 years. She's been doing this. Has it been in Virginia?
All Virginia.
All Virginia?
All Virginia.
Wow, that's a long time, but Linda is very knowledgeable. She's actually done a couple of deals for us, closing wholesale deals, and today I have a couple of questions that I got from you guys about title companies and how to work with them. So I'm going to ask Linda a couple of questions. Hopefully you guys will be able to get a lot of knowledge from what we go over today. The first question that we have that came from you guys is how to find a title company that is wholesaler, that is investor friendly. That means that they're willing to work with investors in wholesale property. So Linda, if you could, tell me how we can go about finding title companies.
Well, just like you came to visit me. You took the initiative to contact me and say, what can we do? And so we feel like at Apex that the customer, whether it be the wholesaler or whether it be the investor, gets top priority. We have to be very careful with wholesale loans. We do a full 40-year search on there. Every wholesale or investment property that we deal with, we go back 40 years. We check to make sure in a foreclosure situation that everything has been cleared up by the foreclosure attorney, that the investor is going to get clear title on the back side of the property no matter what. And if we find too many issues, of course we go back to the buyer and say, this is what we found, and we suggest you not go forward unless we can clear it. We're not going to be able to close as quickly as you believe. Choosing a title company or a settlement agent to do your closing is based on whether they're willing to work with investors. In the Richmond area, there are some that do not do it. It's just absolutely no to any time we inquire if they would like a customer of ours, where we've got more than we can handle at one time. In talking in various networking groups, I've been in contact with settlement agents saying, no, we don't want it, it's too much risk. My position on investors is it is no risk whatsoever as long as you do full title searches, as long as you know how to read all the documentation to assure the investor that they do not have parameters on closing, whether it be flipping it, whether it be a 6-month, 90 days, 6-month, or 12-month holding of that property, and that typically is in the contract and subsequently in the deed. We're very cautious on foreclosures, buying out a foreclosure. We have a very tight timeline in most instances, and that puts us in a dilemma that if we come back with title problems, then we have to ask for extensions, and they're getting a little weaker on giving us extensions rather than when the market was a little bit less good. And so you just have to be willing to ask the right questions when you've got someone that you want to use as a settlement agent, and those questions would be, will you go over the contract for me? Will you insure the loan? And that's one of the other considerations that a lot of settlement agents are using, because investors, wholesalers, and subsequently to investors don't want to buy title insurance. And First of all, that's a big no-no in today's market, and second of all, no title company or attorney wants to take that risk if you don't buy a policy. So it's a matter now of just communication. Talk it out, call. If they don't want to give you the time to talk to you on the phone or set a meeting with you, then you don't want to use them.
That's great information, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of individuals will be able to gain a lot of knowledge from that information that you just gave. Now, another question is, how long does it take from when you receive the contract to actually closing on a property? After, I know the title search has to be done. How long does usually the title search take?
The search, we try to give our searchers a minimum of 72 hours, because particularly in our area where we go to the city of Richmond, and that seems to be prime property right now to buy as a wholesaler. It takes 72 hours to run a 40-year search. Those records over 40 years are pretty intense in the city. We can maybe flip one a little bit quicker in the counties, the surrounding counties of Henrico, Chesterfield, Hanover. But the timeline for the time we get the contract now, sometimes waiting for it to be ratified, you've already got a week behind you. So from the time I receive it to the time that you can close, I would say 10, 12 business days.
10 to 12 business days. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, another question is, most individuals, they have assignment fees. Now, the HUD statements. You can usually have one HUD where the seller will see your assignment fee as a wholesaler, or you can have two HUDs where your assignment fee is only on the back end to the buyer. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you've got an individual selling you the property, you can get away with just one settlement statement. And it's used, the settlement, the wholesaler fee is typically shown on page 2 of the settlement statement, and it's just a cost to the buyer. And sellers, particularly those selling to a wholesaler or an investor, only looks at their side of the settlement statement. It's very unusual for them to question anything that's charged to the buyer. Now, if you've got a bank, a foreclosed deal, you have got to have 2 settlement statements. They're not going to allow anything like that on the buyer's side, because they are going to see that, and that's going to put them on alert that somebody's making money off of this other than they.
That's interesting. I never knew that. I've had times where sellers actually question
Really?
sellers question the HUD statement. They'll see, and Linda actually today, we closed the deal last week, and she showed me a HUD statement from the deal, because the buyer's agent wouldn't show me the HUD statement, but she went over it with me. But she was telling me how on the second page you can see the assignment fee, and now she's saying that the sellers usually don't question that. So that's something that you guys can take into consideration. I know that if I do a large deal, I usually don't want that large number, the assignment fee, being on the HUD, for the simple fact they may question it. Mm-hmm. And even if they just may look at that second page and say, hey, where's this large number coming from? So that's why sometimes I like to do double closes. All right, Linda, so when should an individual wholesaler do a double close on a property?
Well, they absolutely have to do one if it's a foreclosure or a short sale. Those two, the sellers on those, or at least the banks on those, will never allow a second buyer to be on that HUD, plus no assignment fee by any stretch of the imagination. The 2 closings are always best, because you're going to have 2 deeds, and it keeps a clean opportunity for both the sellers on both of the properties to be clear with the IRS when 1099s are done. It also allows for the cost of the transaction doing simultaneously to be put on the second transaction, where the seller, the buyer, who's the wholesaler on the first transaction, doesn't get hit with the cost. A lot of wholesale contracts I'm seeing are calling for the expenses on the first transaction to be charged on the second transaction.
So basically,
so that the seller
doesn't
have to pay a dime.
Exactly.
They get their exact amount that they want. The only thing that would come off would be proration of taxes, and I'm having some contracts to say we don't prorate at all. It's prorate on the backside.
Yeah, and that's the way that I like to do it. I like to have my buyer pay all closing costs. Sometimes you'll get buyers where they're used to having sellers pay closing costs, but I make sure that I like to have that in my contract with the seller. It's a selling point, just to let them know, hey, we'll cover all closing costs. Now, speaking of that, getting a contract, when should a wholesaler come to a title company with an actual contract?
Well, I think that when you're looking at a property that you're going to wholesale, my opinion is you need to have the title search first before you even do the contract, because you're going to waste a lot of time. You've already wasted, or you already have a week down to get it ratified, and probably more than that. And then you've got a 72-hour turnaround for a title search. At the whole time you're trying to ratify this, you can be getting that title search. And that's the best thing you can do, because you know going in which problems are, if they exist.
Now, and actually I'm glad Linda mentioned that, because one thing that I like to do is I actually like to get the contract first, for the simple fact that, and these are for individuals that's out there in other parts of the United States, if they go to a title company and say, I need to get a title search on this property, well, the title company is going to charge them.
No, we don't.
Okay.
We do. I'd rather do the search and have the expense at my door, just in case. Why am I going to? My searcher can search quickly. We'll know the problems, and then it's your choice whether you want to deal with it or not,
Wow.
and how much it can cure. How long it's going to take to cure it. We have title problems, but a lot of them are curable. Some of them never are. We had one just the other day where there was a short sale. We found a judgment on the property totaling about $6,000 that no one had bothered to search the title before they attempted to go into the short sale, and it attached to the property, along with stormwater fees, which totaled $235. This is something that was not included in the short sale approval letter. This is the first wholesale that I've seen by short sale. You know, I have not seen those. I've just seen investors buying individually or foreclosures.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons why I asked that question was because as a wholesaler, you get the contract with the seller, but then also you have to have a buyer for that property.
Right.
Now, when I said when should wholesalers come to the title company?
Before? Oh, I misunderstood. I apologize. Probably not until you get your backside buyer.
Okay. So you're saying, basically she's saying you should know that you should be able to sell this property, and then go get that title search before you get the contract signed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And because when we run title, we're going to run the seller of the property, the wholesaler, and then the new buyer of the second leg of the transaction.
Okay.
Because we have to run them for judgments.
Gotcha. Because in that case, then they'll have to pay the judgments
exactly before they
actually
can
close
buy
on
it.
the property. All right. Well, guys, hopefully you've been able to get a lot of information from this video. Linda's very knowledgeable. I stress that. I've learned a lot from her. I've called her several times just to ask her about certain things, and make sure you have a title company on your side, because they will ultimately help you out in your business. But guys, that's enough for this week. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking the link above, and make sure you subscribe to my newsletter to get constant updates on what's going on tips on things that's working in your market. Guys, I'm Mike Nelson with Wholesaling Houses 101.